Hi everybody, this is a video about how to put together your snow village. I've been doing this for a lot of years and this is the first year I've put mine together this way. And I did a lot of research online and really couldn't find anything that talked about how to effectively put it together. And particularly what to do to build some kind of platform or base, as you can see in my video. So what I did, I finally figured out that you go to your home improvement store and you buy some insulation, some foam insulation. In this case, I bought this pink stuff. In hindsight, it probably would have been better to use the blue stuff, but I didn't know that at the time, so I didn't even know they had blue stuff at the other store, so I got the pink stuff, which is what they had on hand. And then I painted, the pink stuff comes with this clear plastic film, and I peeled the film off of the sides, and then painted it white with just regular household paint. Fair warning, it does take a little bit of time to dry. It doesn't dry as quickly as if you painted it on a wall. It just took a little bit longer to dry. And seeing as I'm kind of an impatient person, that was kind of annoying. So that was the first thing I did, was I built my platform. And I used two levels, two big sheets for the main levels, because I had a pretty big area to cover, and I stacked one on top of another. And part of the reason I did that was so that I had channels so that I could run the cords in between and underneath one of the panels. Like you can see right here, if I move my tree, if I can move my tree, you can see where I have a channel kind of running in between the building. And I actually use that to run some of my cords because I have a mix of buildings. Some of my buildings are Department 56, so they have the plugs in the bottom, but some of them are the Lemix villages and they have the plugs in the back. A lot of platforms I've seen online have holes in the bottom, so you can just feed the cord straight up through. But with a Lemix house, that doesn't work as well. So I've created kind of little channel systems here so that I can run the cords down and in between, and then just disguise it with a little flaky snow, and by putting something like a tree right over the intersection, and then a bench right in front of it, and then you never know it's there. To cut the foam, I didn't use anything special. I actually just grabbed an old paring knife out of the kitchen drawer, and in some places I snapped it, and in some places I cut it. And as you can see, it cuts pretty well. There's a couple places, since this was my first year doing this, that I didn't do too good of a job disguising, like this corner right here. Next year I'll probably do this a little bit better, change it up a little bit. As you can see, I didn't layer that very well. Another thing that I found is very important is to try to get a string of lights that's like 5 or 6 lights on one plug. That way you're not running quite so many wires, because all of these houses take a whole lot of wires. It's very hard to disguise them all. I laid down a big sheet of the brick paper as my base. Actually, the rubber brick mat. It's the first year I've done that. I've never done that before. Next year I'd like to go get the big cobblestone mat because I prefer that. And then I surrounded all my people. I used some of these spotlights that they have to light up some of my sections that didn't have very much light on them, like the water fountain, which has no light, and in front of the movie theater. Another thing to do is just to be really creative. Use things around the house, think outside the box. I have Christmas beads for my tree, which are kind of clear, and I saw them lying in a puddle on the floor, and I thought, well, gee, that would make some nice ice for a river. So that's what I did. I just put the Christmas beads there and ran them all the way up the hill. Now the next part to really give a great looking village is to get some height, to have different levels. So what I did, I'll spin around in a minute and show you, but I built boxes out of this foam and created layers. And not only does that give me some height in the back, but it also gives me a place to put all of my power cords. And one thing I really liked about my village that I did this year was I kind of made it look like a town. In the past, I've just done a row of houses and things in front of it. But this time I actually made like a town square and put, you know, a center of activity. And then, like particularly over here, actually started putting houses back to back. Now if you get right down in there, you can see, you know, because I have the Limix houses, there's a little bit of a bunch of cords going on back there. But when you're looking at it from the front, which most people do, you really can't see that. Another really important part of making an effective village is to get your figures interacting with your village. Like right here, they're actually looking in the shop window. Somebody looked at me and said, "Hey, your people are all in weird places." And I said, "They're all doing things. They're not supposed to be sitting here looking at you. They're supposed to be doing stuff." And my favorite part of my village this year is that you can look all the way down the main street from one end of town to another. I think that's really cool. Again, thinking outside the box, you can go get some pipe cleaners, use them for city decorations, all kinds of fun things. The mini ornament section for mini Christmas trees is a really good place to look. So now I'll swing around here and show you what we got going on in the back. In the back is my least favorite part of the village, especially with the Limix houses, because there's just no way really to hide these plugs. But what you can do, and what I've done since this is in the middle of my kitchen, is I've taken a little of the sparkly white fabric. Most of the places I've just used the white paint on the foam board and sprinkled a little sparkly snow in for effect. But along the back, and this is kind of a mess back here because I pulled it out to show you, but normally I've done a little of this fluffy stuff tucked back to hide all the extra wires that are running along this channel that I made with my 2 different layers of foam board. You got the top foam board sticking over the bottom one just a little bit, so I can tuck all of the wires underneath there. Then when you come back to the main mountain area, I have the foam fabric just laying loosely over the back. And you can actually see through it a little. You can actually see the plugs back here. But the reason for that is that you want this area to be really well ventilated, because this is where all your power cords are. Now I have to put in a disclaimer here because I am not an electrician, and this could totally be a fire hazard. But so far my house hasn't caught on fire, but do this at your own risk. So what I've done is I've hot glued together several pieces of the foam board, and then I've lined the whole thing, painted the top layer white, and as you can see I've just done that all the way along, hot glued pieces of foam board. Again, this is my first year doing this, so next year I might, you know, change it up a little bit, try to do something a little bit more professional. I cut holes in my fabric here so that the cords can run down through. And this is the only place that I have this white sparkly fabric. And then back here, I have, believe it or not, very neatly all of my cords zip tied. And I've constantly, you know, when I started setting it up, would let it run for a while and feel and make sure nothing was hot. This plug, after running for hours, would get a little bit hot, which is why it's kind of propped up and sticking out further than all of the rest of them. Because the last thing you want is a bunch of overheating wires under your village. And again, you know, next year I've got a few houses that are still running off individual light plugs. So in the off season, I'm going to buy more single plug 6 light strands, so that I don't have quite so many wires going on back here. And again, I leave that very loosely covered so that it has lots of ventilation, so that it reduces any chance of everything overheating and getting too crazy. And that's how I put my village together, and I hope it helps somebody out putting their village together.